So as Jason said, my name is Joan Salwen, and I also answered the question of what is the most burning problem that we face, and very much like Cindy, I came up with climate change. And my twist on it, though, is I think the most important challenge to Homo sapiens is avoiding slipping into kind of a depressed, fatalistic posture towards the changing climate. Just getting, overwhelmed with that big hairy thing and deciding that really it's just going to happen no matter what we do. And that kind of thinking will stop us from coming up with really creative, smart ideas and collaborating with each other on ways that we might slow the progress. And I think that finding those ideas and developing them and testing them is vital. So that's what I think is our biggest problem. And speaking of crazy ideas, I think that the one that I'm working on with Ermias Kabraeb at UC Davis is worth presenting as my topic here. So over the past 3 years, I've been collaborating with Dr. Kabraeb. And our collaboration started in 2016 when I stumbled across some little known and never presented research out of Australia that while I was a fellow at Stanford, and it suggested that a natural feed supplement for cattle could reduce enteric methane more dramatically than any other farm management practice or technology that came before it. And I really took a strong interest in this additive at Stanford because it wasn't a lab formulation. It was not a pill or a vaccine. Instead, it is a whole food. It is a photosynthesizing plant that sucks up CO2 and coughs out oxygen just like every single other thing you want to feed your cattle. It's a particular red seaweed. It's not a kelp exactly. This is a little, fun fact for a cocktail party. Kelp is in the brown seaweed family. This is actually an underwater red grass, basically, a marine grass that appears to promote, as does, of course, regenerative agriculture practices, climate positive outcomes. So I got a little photo of her. Here she is, showing off what Mother Nature gave her. These deep red lockets that you see here. These are quite unique in the seaweed world. What's going on here is we've got some particular glands where the seaweed synthesizes some low molecular weight compounds and stores them, encapsulates them, envelops them with a cell within a cell kind of thing and locks them right in there. And during fermentation in the rumen, these kind of pretty lockets open up. And as it happens, the compounds inside these glands are chemically similar to, they resemble the cofactor that methanogens are looking for to bind with in order to advance methanogenesis and to create methane. And when these halogens are present, they bind with the methanogens instead of the cofactor. And in that way, the process is shut down because the reaction cannot continue. So the cows still burp, but the creation of methane in the rumen has been foiled. And so their burps are not laden with the climate warming gas. Their emissions are higher in hydrogen, H2, but that's a simple element, and it doesn't present any danger to the environment. It combines with oxygen and makes dew and stuff like that, but it's not going to warm our planet. So I was also asked to talk about things that give me hope. This gives me hope. At Scripps Oceanic Institute, which is also one of our collaborators in this project, they're working quickly to understand how the seaweed grows and what the what the growth conditions are, what the yield are. It's very early stages of discovery here, but the biomass is doubling weekly, and so they keep adding more and more and more aquaria and tanks, and it's being moved outside. So it's showing that this plant can be domesticated. We can understand how it grows, and so that's very promising for the future. And of course, more research is underway. So for the past 2 years, Elm Innovations, a nonprofit that spun out of Stanford, has raised and deployed about $1 million to support research in a number of different institutions to try to accelerate, like finding the Achilles heel of this innovation, if there is one, or to move quickly towards realizing its potential if it has some. So every dollar's been invested in the impact on emissions, animal health, public health, and cultivation technologies. So in some tests last year at UC Davis with live dairy cattle, we observed emissions reductions when they were given as little as 50 grams of the seaweed per day in their ration. So that's not very much. Holsteins that ate a small amount of the seaweed emitted 60% less methane per liter of milk produced. 60%. That is, as my friend Kelly would say, non-trivial. It's huge. And they did that more than the cows that didn't eat it. So lactating Holsteins produced 420 grams of methane per day. That's what we've been measuring on the farm, on the dairy at UC Davis. So if we were able to reduce that number by 60% or more, which we believe we can, that is really a game changer for our industry and for our planet. 420 grams of methane per day is about the same global warming gas as a 27 mile per gallon car driven an average number of miles in a day emits. So it's a lot, and we are really excited that there could be a way, even for cows that are in regenerative systems where they're climate warriors already, fully offsetting their emissions by soil and plant carbon. But imagine if what was needing to be offset was so much less, how much further negative we could push the envelope. So in our trials, emissions are monitored using a green feed system where several times during the day, cows can just wander and freely munch on these very, very delicious alfalfa cookies in the green feed machine. And while they're in there, they breathe and they burp, and we take all their gas and evaluate it. And all cows that we've had in the trial maintained their health, both the control cows and the cows who ate the seaweed. And the milk was tested both for taste and mouthfeel and also for chemistry, and the milk was essentially equivalent across both groups. So there were 12 cows in our study, and it's the first study that's ever been done in the world. So you might imagine a little more work needs to be done, but more research is underway. So so this is what we do. We trying to figure out whether it's effective, safe, and healthful, and whether when we get there, you'd be able to afford it and would use it. This is my grandfather, and he was in love with his livestock, especially his sheep, and he was a model steward of animals, soil, and water for me. I wish he were around. Even though his farming practices would have been old, he would have given me a lot of support and encouragement. But since he's not here, I'd like to be very grateful to those who have given our team that encouragement, and primarily that includes the Strauss Family Creamery, which has sat by our side from the very beginning and helped us really kind of design trials and assess outcomes and that kind of thing. And also the Organic Valley Co-op, who similarly has been very involved from the very beginning and conducted our taste panel for us and things like that. So I am looking for, always, additional collaborators, people who have questions, who have input, feedback, who'd love to be a model farm someday or whatever. If you're one of those kinds of people, please come see me later.